we usually have the ability to go about half a year traveling. You know, so we will stop and really interact with locals, you know, just so our kids see exactly, you know, how everybody's different. There's nobody is the same, and everybody's going to have something else.
Well, every country in the world, their little tourist traps are identical.
Right.
You see one tourist trap, you've seen them all. We need to go beyond the tourist trap. I want to see what
each country really is.
I want to see what real St. Martin is about. Or I want to see I want to see that, and whether it's a wildly rich country or it's a wildly
really
poor country. I want to be in it.
You're listening to the Reed Fletcher podcast. I got to talk with Stacy and Marty Martinez today, and man, they have got a really cool way of parenting. I met Stacy online. They're starting a podcast called The Motivated Parent, and they travel about half of the year, and they bring their kids with them, and they talk a lot about their relationship with travel and with learning, and how they integrate the two by teaching their kids with hands-on experiences. And I love that. They seem to have a very youthful, fun, spontaneous, and energetic outlook on life. And I think that's a limiting belief that people have, that when you become a parent, you almost have to lose that you sacrifice that spontaneity for newfound responsibility. And they seem to have a really good grasp on both. So it's a great episode. Check out their podcast, Motivated Parent. I'll make sure to link it below, and I hope you enjoy. What did you think about that one?
That was your best one.
Yeah, that one was fire. I thought so too. Well, I'm glad you guys could jump on. Thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you
we appreciate
for
it.
wanting to talk to us. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I know me and Stacy connected a little bit just through a post, I think, that I just happened to cross. Yeah. And so I just did a little stalking and seemed like you guys were interesting. And I don't know, I really appreciate it. It's a cool thing to be able to sit here and get to know you a little bit.
Well, thank you. I'm personally flattered. I'm flattered, and I'm a little nervous, to be honest.
Thank you for stalking us.
Because usually anytime I've been on a Zoom meeting of any type, it's business related. So this is strange that I can just sit down and relax and we can talk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very different. And we moved here from Utah. My wife is from here. And yeah, we've been here for about 6 months or so, and we're loving it.
Nice. Oh man, I love Utah though.
Utah is great.
Oh, Utah's nice.
Utah's fantastic.
Yeah, you guys visit Utah?
We
spent about a week, 2
weeks? We spent
maybe?
about a week in Utah.
2.5 years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago. And we did, full on tourist.
From the top to the bottom.
From the north to south. And we started, the first place we went to was Great Salt Lake, which, not the city, but the state park. And that threw me off. The smells and everything, that threw me off.
But the locals told us not to go.
Yeah, they were, but we're like, what do you mean not go? It's a state park. Of course I'm going to go. Yeah, that threw me off. The city was fantastic.
The city was nice. And we went to
the temple, the Mormon temple there was great.
Yeah,
and then we went south. And that when Utah went full on, 100%, this is as good as it gets. It was so awesome. Pretty. Zion National Park, favorite. It shot up to my favorite immediately. Bryce Canyon, the Capitol Reefs.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Five.
Yeah, the Big Five. It was fantastic. And then Arizona, of course.
Awesome place for travel, and I forget that because I'm from there. But like, have you guys been to Moab or seen pictures of Moab?
Yeah, so we went to Arches. Yeah, we were at Arches. We stayed in Moab, and
Moab was a nice city. Like, it was quiet and small, but to me, I liked it.
A lot of Jeep Wranglers.
A lot of outdoor.
A lot of Jeep Wranglers. Yeah.
A lot of four-wheelers. A lot of people getting rowdy.
Yeah.
But we like Arizona too.
Arizona was fantastic.
We did a few days in Arizona years prior to that.
In
the wintertime though, because we went in the summer to Utah and we've done winter in Arizona.
Grand Canyon, Four Corners.
What was it?
The Canyon du Chay. I don't even know how to pronounce. It's some
Phoenix. We did a little bit.
Phoenix is great. Scottsdale, of course. Yeah.
You guys see what is it? Sedona? Have you checked that out?
Did we go to Sedona?
We didn't go to Sedona to look at anything. I think we just went through it, but we didn't actually.
That's right. We just drove through it. Yes, it was a driving day. Yes, so we drove through it. Yes.
I tried to go to Sedona actually last week. We tried to actually go last week to Sedona.
We did. Yeah.
Now, where are you guys? Where's home base? Where are you from?
Well, I'm personally and we still live in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh wow, that's a long ways from Sedona.
And we drive. We drive to all these places. We don't fly.
Yeah, I guess we've only flown
to San Diego.
That's it.
All our other times have been driving.
Everywhere. And we've been to California before, but we've driven there.
Oh my goodness. Georgia to California. That is a long drive.
And it's the States. We traveled everywhere in the States, and there's nothing like it in the world. And I've been everywhere, and there's nothing like the United States. And there's not like a pro-America. It is such a fantastic place, scenery-wise, landscape.
We have a little bit of everything.
It is just awesome.
Yeah, the diversity of geography in the U.S. is crazy. I mean, even look at like California alone. You've got like the redwoods, you've got Yosemite, you've got the beach.
Yeah, we went. The first time I went to California was in February timeframe.
It was snowing.
We went from beach weather in LA to the next day we were covered in snow in Sequoia National Park, to then head over to San Francisco, and it was just beautiful. I wouldn't go on the beach, and it was a little chilly, but I wouldn't go on the beach. But you got everything: mountains, beaches, you name it, desert, because we went through the desert. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was just fantastic.
Well, and we forget sometimes how big geographically the U.S. is. Mm-hmm. I mean, aside from the U.S., what are bigger? I mean, Russia is bigger, but it's all kind of similar.
Cold and snow and miserable.
Yeah. China.
It's what it is.
Cold to us is miserable.
Yeah, cold is miserable to us.
We only vacation where it's cold. I cannot live where it's actually legitimate multiple weeks of cold weather.
Yeah, that's my wife. She cannot. We lived in Utah for 2 years of our marriage before we came back here, and the winters she just couldn't handle. It's pretty until Christmas, and then after Christmas,
it's brutal.
Like, the magic is gone. The snow's looking brown, and everyone's just cold and angry all the time.
Yeah, that's what, when we were in Bryce Canyon, a woman who worked at the national park told us that. She's like, oh, it's perfect now. It's super hot, but it's perfect. She's like, I hate living here in the winter. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh man. So yeah, we live in Savannah. She's born and raised in Savannah. I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
So I have I'm Cuban American. I wasn't born in Cuba, my parents were, but I'm Cuban American, and we met
here in Savannah
on a wild. Well, it wasn't a wild night. I'm going to say a wild night. We met randomly one afternoon in Savannah.
Wow. And how long you been together?
So we met we got married in 2002.
This year will be 19 years.
Yeah, this year will be 19 years.
Married.
Yeah, married in 2001. Christmas Eve 2001. New Year's Eve 2001 is when we met. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, when we met.
Like at a party or something?
Out in...
Mutual friend had invited me and another one of my friends to go to... Our downtown it did have a huge like balloon drop at the 12 o'clock. And so I was like, fine, sure, we went. And then I was still 17 at the time. I hadn't turned 18 yet. So I was like, I have a curfew. I have to be home by 12:30. So we were there for the ball drop with our mutual friend. And then I was like, okay, I have to go. And so I left. And then we didn't even speak for a couple months. No. And then we ran into each other again.
And just developed there.
Yeah.
It's right out of a movie. It's like...
And then we made the courtship, I guess you can say, was very short. We did 5 months back and forth. And
from dating to getting married, it was 5 months, exactly.
Wow.
And it worked out.
That's amazing. 5 months. And that's when your wedding was, in 5 months?
Yeah.
Or that's when
5 months. To the day, actually.
That's when we got married. 5 months, yeah. Wow. We started dating, 5 months, we're married.
That is crazy. And do you go by Armando or Marty?
So Armando is my name. Everybody except my mom and dad. Everybody calls me Marty.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, and your friends back home.
Well, my old friends, because Marty came about 18, 19 years old, and I left Miami, and that's when everybody started calling me Marty.
And I just stuck with it just because to me it doesn't matter, but some people here and also in Savannah too, some people cannot physically pronounce your name sometimes.
And they actually don't know my name because they've always known me as Marty. So if they ever see my name, they're like, who is this? I'm like, me. It's me.
Do you speak Spanish? Are you guys Hispanic?
I am. I was, yeah, born and raised speaking Spanish, and it's crazy because the other day we visited my mom back in Florida, and I recorded a video there like a few seconds long, and I heard myself speaking Spanish. I'm like, do I have an accent speaking Spanish now?
Southern accent.
I was like, because it just threw me off. I was like, wait a minute. What? Yeah. So and I played a few times. I'm like, I sound like Spanish is my second language now, which was my first.
That is so funny. My mom, she's from Guatemala, and so she grew up speaking Spanish. Now, I actually never learned Spanish. I don't speak Spanish.
Mhm.
And so, but when I try now, because I spent time in Brazil, I speak Portuguese.
Portuguese.
So I can kind of like, like Portuñol, like kind of, we can communicate, but it's messy. It's not pretty, that's for sure.
Well, our three kids, they don't
They do not speak Spanish.
they don't speak Spanish,
which is a bummer.
and I feel horrible about it. I say that now. I feel horrible, but I can go to sleep at night, so it's weird. Like,
They're not that horrible.
Yeah. I mean, do I feel bad? Could I have done something more? Yes, but I didn't.
They can still learn it.
Yeah.
They got time. They got a whole lifetime.
Exactly.
Do you speak, Stacy?
A little bit. I do not like to speak in Spanish because I do have a pretty heavy accent, a Southern accent. So I think it sounds stupid, but I can pick up a lot of stuff that people are saying and understand.
Now, do you guys think I have an accent when I talk? Do I sound like I have an accent of some kind? Because I can hear a little bit of an accent from you guys. It's not strong,
Oh,
but
yeah. Oh no, I have an accent.
yeah,
I was giving you some
Heat.
some heat the other day because you said something, and I was trying to remember yesterday what you said, and it sounded so extremely Southern. I was like, where is this coming from? So we're huge fans of The Office, the show.
Oh yeah.
And there's this one line that Andy's like talking about how people from Savannah speak, and he's like, sound like molasses spilling from your mouth. And that's what I kept telling you after I can't remember what she said, but I'm like, sounds like molasses spilling out your mouth. But it was great. I can't remember. It was great.
I do declare. Yeah, I remember.
I do declare. Yeah.
Those are some of the best episodes too.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. My wife, she's huge on The Office, and for me, I love it, but I can't watch after Michael leaves. At that point,
It's rough.
there's still funny parts, but I'm just a Michael purist, I guess.
Well, I like Steve Carell in general, and then I tried to stick to some of the stuff he's done since The Office, but he will forever be Michael Scott. So when I saw him on Space Force on Netflix, I was like, oh, this is garbage.
Was that good? I didn't see it.
It really wasn't bad, but seeing Michael Scott say the F word repetitively, it's like, oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was weird.
And it's just a word, but it's still weird,
Well, because it's not him.
Yeah.
It's a whole new character.
Yeah, it's like Jim Carrey went and made some serious movies. I think like The Number 23 is a horror movie. I didn't see it, but it's weird. You see him in a certain way, and it's almost weird to see him different. Like they're a friend that grew up and changed. It's funny.
And a lot of them, I think, have done that too. So it's weird seeing your childhood actresses grow up to be. So
What, serious people?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
not what I want them to be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's why so many childhood actors, like, they don't have a good career because they're not a kid, and you're like, the Home Alone kid is trying to make a serious movie. That doesn't feel right. That feels awkward.
I need Macaulay Culkin to slap his face and scream and run around and, put little
Traps.
everywhere in the house. He can do that as an adult. I don't care. Do it.
Have you guys seen the Free Britney documentary?
You saw? Did you finish it?
We were watching something else. We haven't finished it. I was actually watching something else completely on Britney, but it wasn't that.
Oh,
but
okay.
I knew about it from a friend. Like a friend of mine he's a diehard Britney fan, and oh my gosh,
nuts!
It's sad. It's sad.
It freaks you out. You forget that celebrities are people, because like we were just looking at her almost like she was in a cage, like in a zoo or something, and they're trashing her on the media and saying how bad of a mom she is. And me and my wife were watching. I just kept thinking, like, man, if there were cameras and paparazzi on me 24/7 judging every dad move I make, where like I am accidentally giving the kid, chocolate pudding or something, like that would be all over the news if I was famous. And that's a lot of pressure to take, you know.
Yeah, it was. I watched a little bit more of this other show, but it was very. I remember even telling you, I was like, man, this is really sad. And then it kind of made sense why she went and shaved her head, and just was like, I have had enough.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her. I don't blame her, and I think you do what you can in those situations.
Yeah, and I think you get a better perspective on those things when you become a parent, you know, because
Right.
you're just making it up, right? I mean, like parent books, and you try your best, but like no one really knows, at least especially not in the beginning, you know, like you guys do homeschooling, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
How did you come to that decision? Was that something you had talked about before you got married?
No.
No, yeah. No, homeschooling was never part of the plan. Homeschooling came about because of my work schedule. I work overseas, and I do about 2 months at a time. When I came home, my oldest, who was in school at the time, you never saw him. So I don't see him for 2 months. Okay, you got FaceTime, I got it, but you don't see him for 2 months. I come home, early morning, he leaves for school. I see him later in the afternoon.
But 2 hours of the afternoon from the time he gets home to dinner, it's all school, it's all homework. And then we have dinner. We have a small blip of time before, okay, well, now it's time to take a shower and get ready for bed. Mm-hmm. So you were seeing him, an hour really out of the day?
And then vacation. If we wanted to go on vacation, we had to wait until...
It was a school holiday or it was a summer.
Because if you miss X amount of days, they call it, the truancy?
They call it truancy,
the truancy, and then...
Every state's
just a
different.
Mess. It's just a mess.
Yeah, and every state's different. So if you miss so many days, they'll just fail you.
But it didn't work out the first way. The first time we tried it, it took us 2 tries. We went ahead. We did our research, curriculums. Do we buy a curriculum completely from a company, or are we going to piece it together with the subjects that are the best from each company? So we weren't sure. So we did our homework. We tried it, and we're like, this. We felt like he wasn't learning. It's like, we can't do this. It's a disservice that we're gonna do. So we put him back in school.
But a disclaimer to that, though, is at the time we had just had our third baby, so she was a newborn. Our middle child was only 2 years old, and then I was trying to jiggle, like life, with everything with them, and then teach him. That was a disaster.
Well, which is a whole new experience for us.
Yeah, because it was new.
So she tried,
for about 8 months,
and it really took a big hit on our pride, because we're like, I can't believe this. We did this, and we're just gonna step away, because I think the stepping away process probably took like 2 weeks. They're like, we can't do this. We absolutely cannot. But we're like, it's not for us. It's for him. So we put him back in school.
Right.
We tried that again. Tried the school. And by then, life slowed down a bit because
the kids got a little bit older. So now the baby wasn't a newborn anymore. She's over 1. Life just gets a little bit easier as they, can start actually, just a little bit older.
I always say when they become humans, I always say parenthood becomes, it's a whole 180 on parenthood when they can go to the bathroom by themselves and when they can feed themselves. Parenthood takes a whole different meaning.
I'm waiting for that. Right now, I'm still wiping him and feeding him. So
it changes. It changes. We were just having this conversation with some close friends of ours just a few days ago about they have a 2-year-old, and the conversation was about them having more kids. And they have their reservations about it. It's like, oh no, daycare. Very
normal and
common. Real. Yeah, common and very realistic. It's not like they had we need to make, 8 figures, a year before we can even, because it wasn't nothing ridiculous. And we're like, hey, just remember that parenthood does change drastically when they can start using the bathroom themselves and feeding themselves. And it might sound like it's like, yeah, obviously there's going to be a change, but it can be that big. It's massive. It's a massive change.
From 4 on, I think from 4 on, it's like the golden years 4. Well, because then they really want to, they kind of went from the terrible 2s to the 3s are not any better. But 4s are really good because then they're like, I want to help. And they really want to be, they just want your attention, but in a good way. Yeah. And then by that time, 4-year-olds for the most part are potty trained. They definitely can feed themselves. they can tell you how they feel when they're tired, when they're not tired. So 4 for me was like the golden age. And then most kids go to pre-K in 4. So if you wanted to have more kids and still be able to give more time to the baby, 4 to me is the best age, because 4, they can go to pre-K, and then you have. So that's kind of what we're talking about with, and that is, when we came back around to homeschool, our oldest, his name is Connor. And so when we came back around the second time to homeschool him, it was only because I went to I wasn't the class parent, but it was helping out. And then I saw that he was literally, the school put everybody in groups for every class. It didn't matter, which I thought was weird, but I was like, oh, okay. And then our son is super smart when it comes to being, like, figuring out who the smartest kid is. So he was like, I'm just going to be lazy. Why should I put in the work if I can, in my little table desk of, people, let me pick the smartest kid. And that's what he did. And I was like, we are not doing this. We are not going to let you pick the smartest kid who's your friend and then piggyback off of him.
That's kind of a funny problem to have. He's resourceful, right? He's figuring
exactly.
it out.
And yes. So that's when I was like, okay, we can't do this. This is a complete disservice to him. So we decided then it was time to try homeschooling again. Our daughters were older. Both of them were in preschool. And so I was like, you know what, this will work out. I think this will work out. And it did. And it was nicer to have. And we didn't have a support system in the beginning. No. Your parents weren't with it. No, my parents thought I was going to.
They thought it was. I don't want to misuse the word, but it was such a hipster thing. You don't do this. We're not. Yeah. What's next? You're gonna have a VHS tapes, and it's like no. It is modern. It has changed.
Right. And my family was completely against it.
It's almost like they weren't making fun of you, but they try not to understand you. It's like, oh yeah, let me get. They're not gonna have any friends now. It's like, which is
friend thing.
Furthest from the truth. The whole friend thing. But anyways.
Or socialization.
Oh, social skills. Oh, there goes their social skills. I'm like, it's what? It's like, it's not like that. Although I was nervous again the second time because.
Not me. At that point, I was 100% in, because while I was seeing what Connor was doing with his friends, where we live, it's a huge homeschool community. Savannah by far probably has I don't want to say it's the largest, but when I talk to other people who move to other cities, it is a huge, huge population. And I kind of sometimes say it's underground because people don't even realize it's there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everything from nursery to we have our own high school graduations. We have our own proms. Like, it's a huge thing. So I saw this, and so you have a big community, but then within the community you have what's called co-ops. And so I saw one that I knew I really wanted to join because I had friends there who not only do I trust and I look up to, because a lot of them were older than us, the parents were, of the other kids. I was like, oh man, this is kind of where I would like to be. So I put our kids on the wait list. So by time it came and kicked around, Connor was coming out of, the school system into homeschool. So for me, I was so much more prepared, and I wasn't nervous. I know you were still a little hesitant. Well,
it's because the thought of failure, because we might not see the failure right now, but it's like, but there's stuff that I don't know. I wasn't, traditionally educated to be a teacher or an educator. Right. So that is very nerve-wracking, knowing that my potential shortfalls can harm him in his future. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about if he does want to pursue college, entrance exams, or bad test takers, because I didn't teach him. I felt like everything was on our shoulders. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he might not notice it because he doesn't know. But those co-ops, those homeschool groups that this city offers, change the dynamic of homeschooling. We homeschool, but it doesn't feel like homeschool. It feels like school.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like school because you got co-ops.
So he'll have to... And
other organizations that like-minded, same-aged kids that are split by grade levels, and it changes. It changes completely.
So in co-ops, like for the one we were in, and we've been in it for years. We didn't go this year only because of COVID. Because I was like, oh, forget it, because they were only offering certain classes, and I was like, to me, it wasn't really worth it. So we took this year off, which half the co-op did. But we meet on Fridays, and my kids have to answer to other parents who are their teachers. So, I taught 3 or 4 classes. I did a photography class one year. We did like a literature style class, but as an elective, because I don't want to be the adult who's responsible for a real literature class. Because there's plenty of parents who, have degrees in various things, but they've backed off because their husbands decided to keep staying in the workforce, and the women stayed home.
And it's insane. The
engineers,
teachers, educated teachers, engineers, scientists, you name it, and it's
all of these are moms,
and they
who are
chose to become stay-at-home moms
with these huge backgrounds. They've worked in the workforce, they've been in their field, and then they've decided, no, I want to, stay home. And it's, one of the other ones, they're, what was she?
Different jobs, like traditionally how they got.
One
taught.
is an anesthesiologist.
Yeah. You have
you're
all
at home.
It is crazy the amount of education that
these parents put forth.
And it is, well, I guess the most stereotyped thing. I don't even know if it's a stereotype. It is mostly women, and I've always made that comment. I'm like, they only see women. It's like there's no guys around.
That's why I make you go.
Yeah, so I go when I'm home. I always like showing my face, putting it out there. I'm like, hey, there's a dude here, or just to give him something different, to look at.
Yeah,
but it is mostly women who chose to become stay-at-home parents.
Well, that's kind of true at school too, though, right? Aren't most teachers women?
They are.
Most teachers are women, except for, I think back, and and our co-op is everybody has an input, but I think growing up, some of my best teachers from elementary through high school, the formative years, were male teachers. So they have reached out, and like ours, they do have a few more dads have stepped up to come in and teach. But it's even in there's just not many male teachers. And if they are, they're usually like a gym teacher or
like a physics teacher, economics. Yeah. That's for whatever reason, it's usually men. You're right. Hearing you guys talk about homeschool, it's interesting. I was homeschooled for half of 1 year. I don't remember exactly why we stopped, because it was like in 2nd grade. So I can't really say too much about the experience. What I have heard is kind of what you guys touched on. Like the stigma that people put out there is mostly about social, right? Like they say. Well, I think they have the wrong idea. Like I had never heard I'd never heard of a co-op. And that sounds, I think most people would say that when they hear homeschool, they think, well, it's just like, some backcountry family who has got like really weird religious views or something. And they don't want to be corrupted by the satanic school district. And, like you hear people get those weird ideas in their head.
No, you're absolutely right.
No, that is 100%.
That was me. Born and raised in Miami, I had my idea. A Boy Scout. We used to make fun of Boy Scouts. Oh, look at this kid. What is he doing? Nice little ascot or whatever they wear. Their handkerchief.
Yeah.
And you didn't do that. Like Boy Scouts, you didn't do. Like I don't think I ever met somebody homeschooling. It's just strange.
And now and then all of our homeschool friends, all of them have been in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and the majority of them are Eagle Scouts.
I'm an Eagle Scout, actually.
So yes, and our son did Cub Scouts all the way through, and then
became a Boy Scout.
But then he didn't. I don't know what happened. He didn't really like our what's it called, the
troop.
The troop. I was like blanking. He didn't like the troop so much because they did a shift in leadership. So then he went over and joined Civil Air Patrol.
Oh, what's that? I haven't heard of that.
And that was really cool.
It is,
or is still really cool.
It's an auxiliary of the Air Force.
It's an auxiliary component of the Air Force, and the Civil Air Patrol has adults and it has children as well. And what the grown-ups do, they actually assist in search and rescue and other type of real world missions. As a kid going to the Civil Air Patrol. You go there, and it's very regimented though. You got to have a uniform. It has to look sharp. It has to have the right rank, and it cannot be messy or sloppy.
It's very much military-esque.
It's very militarized, and which threw me off at first how it was, because I don't know. To me, they're a civilian component, so I'm like, civilians are not going to pull this off. Well, it gets pulled off. They do very well, and then you start at rank. So it's a rank structure. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna progress through ranks, and you start at the beginning, and the amount of literature that you have to read. There's so many books on everything: avionics, aerospace engineering, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you have to test. This is just for promotions, and you test in these subjects, and you promote ahead. You can do, what's the flying? What do they call the flying?
They're called O flights. But in the end, if you stay with it, and if you even want to progress, you can end up getting your pilot's license for free through Civil Air Patrol. You learn to become a pilot.
Really? Wow.
So, and then of course, I mean, after that, they have all these. Most of the kids who go on and complete the whole program, they get various scholarships. If they want to go to the Air Force Academy, they're kind of looked at. They're put in the higher tier to be looked at.
If you enlist in the Air Force, then you have certain awards.
You go in at a higher rank.
You go in at a higher rank, which I believe is like E3, E4 is where you can max out at going in.
Yeah.
And what's the age group of kids doing that?
What's the youngest?
It starts at 12, and you can go up to 18. However, if you become an adult, but you still want to stay on, I think you can stay on, but you're no longer as a... like kind of like what Connor is in his area of it.
You're not a cadet. You're not a cadet.
You're an adult, like almost like an assistant, but you're still within the program up until 21.
Mm-hmm. I feel like at that age, at least for me, so I did Boy Scouts, and sounds like this kind of thing is a similar idea to where you're getting ranks, you're growing, you're in some kind of troop, and you're learning different things that you probably wouldn't have learned. And I think that was so important for me. I think I overestimated how valuable an Eagle Scout would be on a resume. Like everyone told me when I was a kid, like you can get any job you want. Like you're going to be the coolest guy, to get me to get it. But so that's kind of overrated as far as that goes. But the experience, I think it's so important, especially like a teenage boy, to be around people that are like-minded, to feel like you're progressing in something.
Right.
It just kind of grounds you and makes you feel important. When you're that age, you don't have a lot of things that make you feel that way. And I think it's great.
Or what you learn in Boy Scouts, even it starts in Cub Scouts too, but just all the stuff you learn about growing up and how to do things. Because there's so many kids now who, like, if you try to say, hey, go set up a tent, they're going to be there for about an hour and probably still won't get that. And that's just a very basic thing. There's so many life skills, especially when they do the camp outs. I mean, because I know a troop that all of our homeschool friends use. They're all kind of most of them are in the same one. They go camping every single month for a weekend. Every single month, it's a dedicated weekend. And they do so much stuff. They go hiking. They'll go up to South Carolina, North Georgia.
It builds confidence. It builds confidence in themselves that they can do things.
Yeah, they can learn things, and they can, like, if they just practice and they stick to it, and a certain amount of pride. They have like the sash with the different stuff on it. Are you guys? All about that kind of stuff. I know. I think I remember when I was in Scouts like forever ago. I just thought it was like in the military. How they have their awards and stuff.
Right.
I didn't know you could just go to the store and buy those patches.
But you still can't technically put them on.
Well, you can do whatever you want, but you didn't earn them. That's the thing. It's earning them.
It's a lot of work that goes into earning them, though.
And to me, awards to me are... I quit caring about awards, and I'll tell you why I quit caring about awards. It has nothing to do with everybody gets a trophy. Nothing about... If people want to give out trophies, I don't mind.
I like awards.
The reason awards kind of lost their meaning to me, and it's because I was in the military. I did 13 years in the military, and you get all these awards, or you do something, you get an award. It doesn't. It cool, I did, but it's already been done. It doesn't matter. I don't wear it on my chest. You kind of forget about it. So you just did things, and then you never did it for an award. So that's like, oh, you just do it. Just do whatever you got to do and get it over with. The award doesn't really matter to me anymore. As long as you got the experience and you did it. You know what I mean?
I know, I get it.
So yeah, I can agree. I guess it depends, because for me, a lot of the times, like I don't work for an award, but it also is a little bit more of a motivator to me to accomplish something, to where like
absolutely, yes,
everyone else is gonna know that I accomplished it.
So me as a grown up, I guess that's what I said. Me as a grown up, I don't care for the awards anymore. Now watching Connor progress through the ranks in Silver Air Patrol and getting awards for conducting certain things, that is cool because I can see it in him. So you're absolutely right. It does motivate you that, or at least that, hey, my work didn't go unnoticed. Mm-hmm. Right? Somebody did notice, and somebody did take the time to put in for an award for me, and that does carry an extreme amount of weight.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to feel like you're like people are paying attention to what you're doing, especially as a kid. Mm. Now, what do you guys think? I know you mentioned the everyone gets a trophy. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I was also like kind of more competitive as a kid. I like doing sports and stuff like that, and so that idea was very foreign to me. Maybe in some contexts it works. What do you guys think about that?
So I grew up playing sports, and I remember you only got a trophy or an award if you won first, second, third. That's what you get. That's when you get it. Mm-hmm. You don't get the participation trophy or the medal. You don't get that. Which I'm gonna jump around here for a minute. Our oldest, Connor, he did Taekwondo for years, and I remember one time. Now, his instructor, Master Richards, fantastic instructor, and if nothing else, the patience that he has to be around kids.
We all need that.
I have never met another person ever who has the patience that this gentleman has around kids. Uh-huh. It is just astounding. But I do remember we came back from a tournament, and the next class we were there at the studio or the gym. What's gym studio? I forgot what they call it. They did give it an award to someone, because he didn't get any awards, so here you get one for X or Y reason. And I'm like, oh, come on. It's like, you earn it or you don't earn it. It's like, let's not do this. But I did see the kid's reaction. He was at the end. He's like, oh, look what I got, Mom. And he was super excited. So, yeah, I'm used to going back. So first, second, third, that's when you get an award. And first place should always be a baller trophy. Should not all be the same. I don't like that everybody gets an award, because I think it loses its meaning. And it's like, hey, what do all I have to do is show up, and I'm going to get an award. I'm going to get something just for showing up. You can show up and do absolutely horrendous, and I'm going to get something for showing up and doing horrendous. I don't like that. And I don't know if I get softer through the years. It does kind of suck when you are the parent and you feel like your kid got excluded. And your kid always does the best in your head, so you do kind of feel bad. So when there is when there is something for showing up, you're like, okay, at least they got that. Okay, so I'm kind of torn. I'm torn.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I've thought about that too, because part of me is like, I want my kid to be able to feel like they won. And if it's a competitive thing, and so you were saying, it kind of takes a little bit of the value away if everyone gets an award, which I agree with. And I guess I want my kid to be able to discern between like, hey, I won, and hey, I lost, and it's okay that I lost. Like, you don't have to make me feel better about the fact I lost. But I also, it is also hard, like you see like a 3-year-old soccer league, and you're like, I don't really need to, make these kids feel like they are losers at the same time.
Right.
So.
And I think as years do go by, and we have more kids involved, or more, Reagan and Kennedy, we have 2 daughters, Reagan and Kennedy. As they get involved in their own things, I do soften up more. I do enjoy that. It goes back to they did get recognized, because some kids, they really are pouring their heart and soul into it. They're just not that good.
They just won't be super
or
athletic.
they're not that good yet. And it is nice when they do get an award. I'll use Reagan, our middle one, Reagan. She pours every bit of energy that she has into everything she has to do. Playing the violin, just dance, tests, you name it. She pours, and I see her. My son, not like that. My youngest, not like that. My middle one, the teacher says I have to study for 30 minutes, or she has to practice for 30 minutes a day. She's gonna get in 30 minutes a day, and she doesn't just, like pick up a violin. I'm just gonna pick it up for 30 minutes and say I practice. No, she practiced with a purpose. Right. She wants to get better in those 30 minutes than the previous 30 minutes. And it would be very disheartening if she did a competition and she came out empty-handed, and you're like, oh, if people only knew the energy that she has poured into this, but she's just not that good yet. And it's like, oh, or you always say you're a bad test taker. You just didn't bring it that day.
I'm not bringing it to any tests. Like, ever.
You get like test anxiety?
No, I don't. I think my brain just shuts down on big tests, little things, whatever. But like, so we run a high school group for our community, our little homeschool community.
It's a homeschool organization.
And we have, oh my gosh, we probably have like 150 high school students, and this is a low year because of COVID stuff. But so a lot of our seniors have taken, SAT, ACT, or CLT, I think is another one you can take. And I was talking to one of the girls, and she's standing next to one of the guys who's super, super smart. He's actually a junior. He's graduating this year. This kid just was born with just genius brains. But so he's telling her about his SAT score, and she's just like, oh man. Now she is the same way. She does not test well, and she's like, oh gosh, this is bad. She wouldn't tell him what her score was, and I was like, who cares? Because she just doesn't test well. Yeah, it just cracked me up that, one kid is super smart and he's got all these awards, all these things he's going to get just on that. And then you have her, but then it all works out in the end because she's smart in other ways that he isn't. So everything works out.
And I'm the opposite, because I know you've always complained about you've never been a good test taker. Not always complained, but I've heard you complain several times about I'm not a good test. That's
my biggest concern for the kids, is that they're going to get that, because you test very well.
Me, on the other hand, I enjoy being tested. I'm like, bring it. And I want to make it extra hard, because I don't know what it is. Since I was a kid, I've always, like, a test. And even when I do just bare minimum study, everything's on a test. I'm like, I know it. It is crazy.
Nope, I've brain dumped.
I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Through high school, I can tell you that I was a horrible student as far as I didn't study. I gave you the bare minimum effort. But if you look at all my tests, they're always aced. I can't explain it.
College, too.
College. Same thing.
You did the same thing there.
I was not a good student, but I test very well.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of...
That's kind of scary.
Except for, I guess I'm a combination, because I test really well, but it's because I'm afraid of doing poorly. So I cram like you would not believe. Like I'll sit there for 5 hours just like reading every last thing so that I'll do well on the test, because I see it like a challenge, like they're trying to trick me. They're trying to get me. And so I'm like, no, that teacher's not gonna get me this time. No, I'm gonna memorize.
No, I think they are all trying to get us. They are trying to get us.
The only flaw with that is and when it came to tests, I always think that they want to. There's so many problems that I've read sometimes. I'm like, that's a trick question. I know they're trying to trick me, and I'm reading too into it. But then I try to, or I think I'm gonna outwit the teacher sometimes. I'm like, that's my own flaw. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna hose myself on this one if I keep thinking like this. Not everything's a trick question. I know exactly what you mean. It's like you're not gonna get tricked. I'm not gonna get tricked.
They're getting even crazier. Like, so I just graduated from college last year, and the tests now, because it used to be like, like one answer, A is like not even close. So you're like, okay, it's not that one. And then B and C, you're like, well, it could be either of those. And then D is all the above. So, okay, so it's not all the above because one of those is bad.
Absolutely.
And, like you can kind of do like the deductive reasoning, but now teachers are evolving. and you guys probably know this better than anyone. They're outsmarting the students. And
Right.
one of the so the questions now are like A and B, or you can kind of guess, but then C, the answer is either A or B, and then D is like A, B, and C, and then there's E that's like A, B, and C, but not D. It's like just like this jumble of
Like,
stuff,
yeah.
and we're trying to.
So you got to know your subject. You got to
Yeah,
know
you
your
actually have to
subject.
know
Yeah.
it, right?
You have to know your subject. Yes.
You can't just skim the bold words of the textbook.
Now, something that I've done most of my life when it comes to education is when I have to learn it. Like I said, I'm a horrible student. I'm not going to give you any effort on that one. It isn't until after the fact that I have an intense desire to know everything, the ins and outs of that subject. And I've done that for everything. History. I'm a huge history buff. I could care less about history when it was in college, in high school. I can care less. Now, I want to know everything about history. I always tell you, I want to know everything about everything. I want to know everything about history, and everything I read, it's history. And it isn't until after the fact that that's where my desire grows.
Yeah.
And I think because I have no stress about passing it, maybe because there's no pass or fail at that point, I can learn literally at my own pace.
Yeah. No, I really relate to that, actually. I remember my parents, they put me in like piano lessons when I was 12. And the way I thought about it was that I didn't own that process, right? It was my parents wanted me to do it. So I felt almost like an employee. So I would go and I would basically put in the bare minimum so that my teacher would be happy, my mom would be happy, and then I'd go do what I want. And I ended up having a similar experience afterwards. I didn't really get anywhere with piano. And then I quit. And then years later, I had like an intense passion and interest in it. And my thought was, it must be because I could learn it on my terms. I was only learning because I was interested in it, rather than wanting to learn it to appease, my mom and whatever. And it's kind of sad because I don't really know the way around that, like, because you guys are teachers, right? And your parents and your teachers, so you're double teachers. And it's like, you can't make someone be interested,
Right.
but you also can't just say, hey, do whatever you want, only do what you're interested in. Like, you have to learn you have to have the basic fundamentals. And so essentially, like, sorry, even if you don't like science, you got to learn the basics, kind of shove them in there.
And that's where methods are critical. Because if you teach me something, if we're going to do a lecture, PowerPoint lecture, and that's going to be the next hour and a half, I'm going to tune out. And if you're reading every slide, I'm like, you might as well print it out and just give me a slideshow. I could have read this on my own and got way more out of it. But that's where methods are critical. I always try to find some cool little fact, some quirky little fact or something that it's like, oh, did you know that X or Y? And it's like, whoa, really? I'm like, yes. Or you link some obscure physics, something obscure that Isaac Newton did to their lesson, and it's like, those two things are the same? Are you kidding me? And when you link those two things together, I guess the point is I just try to spark them somehow. It's where I try to get their attention. If you just teach it for what it is boring. It is what it is.
That's
we were all
everything.
kids at one point. It is boring. I'm like, hey, I've always hate, especially back to history, just learning facts, dates. No, I think that's pretty easy. I think most kids can do that. Our kids do that. They memorize stuff all the time. So memorizing things, I like them to know the reasons behind things, like history, which is more like second, what I call what is it? A skill level 2 task. That's what they say in the Army. A skill level 2 task. So it requires a little bit more critical thinking. That's where I want them to be from an early age, where they don't know, oh, July 4th, 1776, Independence Day. Cool, I know it. I'm like, no, you know the date. I can give you a date too, January 1st, 1999. It means nothing.
Right.
Just what happened. What was so important? What were some of the impacts? That's what I want them to know. So So methodology, your methodology it's critical when it comes to learning.
But we constantly learn here. Like our vacations are based off of this style of learning too.
Yep.
I don't know when the last time we've just taken a vacation just to
take a vacation.
Just to take a vacation.
No, learning.
Maybe
learning permeates our entire lives, and this is not putting ourselves up on a pedestal. There's nothing to do with that. We revolve everything around learning. Everything. There's road trips that we've gone from the East Coast to the West Coast. They go on. If you follow our route, it's literally from one subject to the next subject to the next subject to the next, and we go across the United States just doing that. And I don't even realize they know it, but they don't even realize three-quarters of the time what's actually going on. Mm-hmm. And every now and then, we could be talking at the dinner table or just some random conversation. I'm like, hey, did you know about X or Y? And then one of them be like, oh, I remember when we went to this national park and we did this and we talked about that. And it's like, whoa.
It's like,
I forgot that.
Yeah, they remember little things.
Like, yeah, it's really cool.
That is awesome. I love hearing that. My wife is always talking about that. She loves you guys heard of the Bucket List family?
I've heard of them, yes.
I have not.
They were based in Utah, correct? Originally?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know a lot about them either. They're a big Instagram couple. They've got, I think,
3 or 4 kids. Yeah,
a couple kids. And from what she's told me, it's kind of that same idea. Like they're teaching them, new cultures. Mm-hmm. Is a big one. They're teaching them history. They're teaching them about, one of the things they said was you could read about, wildlife, or you could actually go and look at the wildlife, like go swim with the whales or whatever. Right. The impact that has. So I love hearing that. I think that's awesome to be able to make an experience, something that'll actually stick. It's so much better than, like you were saying, rote memorization is lowest level.
We do a lot of learning on vacation.
But something that really humbled me with Connor, of course, first, was when it came to math. During school, if I can care less about all the subjects, the one I cared least about was math. Leaps and bounds, the least I cared about was math. So when Connor got to that, the joke from what's the comedian Bill Engvall, when they start putting letters in math. So when I started back to the algebra and letters back, I was like, oh my. So when Connor came to me with an actual question, sometimes, like the first couple weeks, I just try to gut it out real quick, like, oh yeah, and I'm digging, I'm that Rolodex, and I'm trying to dig deep. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the wait a minute, babe, come over here. What do you? And it wasn't where, I think just the relationship that between my son and I changed was when he came with a problem. Now, it didn't even have to matter whether it was math at this point. And I was like, you know what? I don't know it either, but we're going to learn this together. And we learned it together. And that took a life on its own now. Because now he sees you as your parent. And I think most kids always see their parents. It isn't until you become a grown-up, you're like, oh, my parents were not that good at this or that, or they were just figuring it out. Because you think they have it figured out, right? When you're a kid, oh, my parents have it figured out. Oh, they don't. But at least he knows that I don't have it figured out. But we're gonna take that pause and we're gonna figure this out together. Mm-hmm. Like it's you and me right now, and we have 17 more hours left of today before we have to go to bed. We can get this done, and we figure it out together, and that is cool.
We actually do joke with him a lot though about that with parenthood, because he's always saying something. We're like, Connor, we're just learning with you. The girls will be good to go. We just gotta figure it out with you.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I always say, because I'm like, Connor, it's like you're always been our guinea pig. We figure it out with you. The girls are always set up for success. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I was just joking.
The first one's the test run, and then by the time we get to the other ones.
Yeah, and then lately we started joking around with our middle one, Reagan, when I'm like, Reagan, you have it pretty good, but I'll tell you who's going to have it best is my youngest, who's Kennedy. It's Kennedy, because all the mistakes that we didn't quite figure out with Connor, we really figured them out with you. She's like, what? I'm like, it's just parent humor.
How old are your kids?
But it is true, though. Like, it really is.
So our oldest, Connor, who is 16, then we have Reagan,
And she is 11.
And Kennedy
is 8. So there's a big difference. There's an 8-year difference, obviously, between Connor and Kennedy. And, I mean, but they're like best friends. They get
oldest
along
and
so
youngest.
well.
Oldest and youngest are... They're very buddy-buddy. That's pretty... That
very
is really
alike.
cool because they're not only... There's not... Excuse me. It's not only 8-year difference in age, but height-wise, too.
Oh, yeah, because she's super
Because our youngest is super short. Not short for an 8-year-old. Not short because she's an 8-year-old. She is short.
She is short for an 8-year-old by like an entire head of all her friends. Shorter.
And my son, he's not a giant, but he towers. He just towers over her. And
when I'm short, you're average. I mean, we're not tall people by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really sure where Connor got his height, but then Reagan, our middle child, she's gonna be tall. Like she is definitely gonna be tall.
Her limbs are long.
My height now, and I'm like, oh, I was not even that at that age ever. I was nowhere close. I'm more like Kennedy. Kennedy will be lucky to be because I'm 5'2". She's gonna be lucky to be 5'2". So yeah, it's funny. So
she is the most, our middle one, the biggest change between ours, I guess, if we can sum it up. Connor, he's very much like me as when it comes to, you said at the beginning, kind of efforts. Sometimes like, hey, I'm going to give you the effort you want. But do I really have to go much further than that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have to. It's like, so he's going to give you a good performance, but he's going to hold back every time.
He'll give you 100%, but he's not going to 100.5.
Yeah, he's just going to give you what you want. Our youngest, and I'm skipping this part, our youngest,
same thing.
Not a worrier at all. She doesn't worry. She's like, what do you want me to do? Okay, I'm either going to do good or I'm going to do bad. Either way.
She doesn't care.
No worries. Really cool. Very stoic maybe. Like, it's like, hey, I'm going to do it, but I can't, I'm not going to worry about what's going to happen. Never worries about anything. Our middle one, the most different of all of them.
Stresses me out.
She worries about everything, and she worries that she's just going to give you enough of something. She wants to give you
120%.
everything, everything, regardless of the subject, regardless of what we're talking about. If it's just, hey, let's cook dinner. She's like, let's cook dinner, but we're gonna make sure that everything we do, she wants to do it perfect. She is a worrier. She's always thinks that she's not doing good enough, and it's not that she's voicing it necessarily. You can just see it in her actions, in her mannerisms. Yeah, in her mannerisms. Sometimes you can when she's beating herself up over she can't get a certain note on the violin. You know it, and you're like, and so she's the one we coach the most as far as like, hey, take it back. So it's easy for her sometimes, for us, because like, hey, put the violin. For example, I'm using the violin. Put the violin away. Why don't you come help in the garage or something and just get her mind off of it? So.
But that also goes back again to what we were talking about earlier with the testing and, what you do. So for her, the other two could really care less. They care, but it's just like, oh, whatever. But for her, because of the way she is, and I think this also due to homeschooling too, she has to give that 120% all the time and everything. And then she worries about tests because she wants to do the best on tests. Now, all of our kids, when we have to do every year, the same as the school system, you have to do the standardized tests to see where they're at in how they're performing throughout the grade. She's always testing, and I'm not kidding you, 4 to 5 grades ahead.
She's the most.
It is insane, and it's kind of scary because then our son's like, great, Mom, she's in 5th grade and she's testing at like a grade below me because he's in 10th grade and he's like, this is garbage, and I'm like, well,
she's the most passively competitive person I think I've ever met. Because she's not going to make it seem like she's competing against you.
But she is competing with with everybody.
She has this competition already built up in her head. And that's part of, I think, her worries, because she wants to do the best. And not by a little. She wants to destroy the rest of the playing field. She wants to
destroy you, and as a person, anybody.
And she's so sweet. But she in her head, she's going to destroy.
She's a silent killer. She's just going to sneak in and...
And I think, a lot of it is... I think part of her being, honestly, I think came from homeschooling, the way she is and the way we teach and her whole life is circled around everything we do. Like, because now that you mention it, it's like the way she tests and then the way she gives of herself. And then she's the one who will sit at the dinner table and she's spitting out a fact from who knows where, from where she got it. But then you think later on, we'll be going to bed at night with like, she got that from a road trip to Montreal, like 6 years ago.
She does have
what?
A giant,
like
she does have
a sponge.
A giant
It
reservoir
sponge.
of obscure facts. Because there's times that she'll spit one out, and I'll make a mental note, or I actually write it on my phone or type it on my phone, and I'll search it later on. I'm like,
she's
right, absolutely right about that. That is insane. Obscure facts, like, oh, this color was made by DuPont and back in 1972, and you're like, there's no way, no way. And then you look it up. There's times we'll do like, there's no way, Google.
It'll always be at night when we're like the kids have gone to bed and we're in a room kind of just relaxing for the evening, and we're like kind of decompressing and going through the day because we're with our kids 24/7, especially me, and so you're kind of going through everything, and you're just like, man, what in the world? But I mean, it is from vacation, so when your little one gets older, definitely travel, but then like national parks and state parks do it as well. But national parks have what's called a junior ranger program. Mm-hmm. And so every park you go to, and it doesn't have to be an actual park, it can be a site or a monument, and it's a free program. When you go into the park, you say, hey, I want to do the junior ranger. And we do it ourselves because there's
no age limit.
There's no age, but you get a badge, and this goes back to awards because you get a little badge or a little pin or sometimes a patch, and I'm over here just collecting everything because I want all of the awards.
You had me at badge. I'm in. I'll do it.
And some of them are plastic, some are actual nice metal ones.
Well,
some are wood.
Utah will give you wood ones. Utah
gives you wood, like they're
engraved. They're engraved
beautiful badges. And it's, I don't know, we have a ton of them, and we've we really do kind of set a thing with our friends. They'll see something we've done, and then they'll want to do it, which is really nice. And a lot of it's junior ranger stuff, so now they'll go and learn. So you get a booklet, you fill it out, and then once you fill it out, you go to the park ranger. They look through it, make sure you did everything. Sometimes they'll correct you. They kind of just scan it. They're not. It's not a pass or fail.
You see things at the park, and you're supposed to check them off like a scavenger hunt kind of thing.
Well, it's all in the age. So some are scavenger hunts, and then like Connor's age, it's legit. Okay, well, he should have read like a plaque or something and could be able to answer the question. Well,
different parks have it set up differently. Like Yellowstone, Yellowstone. Yellowstone is very involved.
Yeah.
And which I think goes back to kind of budgets, like what can their budget handle?
Right.
And they have different tiers. So your age should do this tier, and then 5 through 7 year olds should do this tier. Mm-hmm. But you can do them all, and then there'll be a different badge for it. And if you get all the badges, then you can get even a mega badge. But not everything's a scavenger hunt. There's
the little kids will be. The smaller kids will be like a picture find, but all related to the education the park is trying to get you to learn. So whatever they want you to learn from the park.
Because most of the big parks, part of the requirements for the junior ranger program in order to get that badge is to go to interview a park ranger. That's one. That's a real common one.
That's actually a lot of fun.
Interview a park ranger, and I truly enjoy watching my kids go through the struggle of talking to a stranger. Because what do we tell them all the time? Hey, you don't talk to strangers. Stay away from them. Mm-hmm. And it's really weird seeing them put in that position, in that social position. And you let them interview a park ranger. Another one would be like go to a junior or a park ranger, a program. Mm-hmm. You got to go to, which will be an hour long, 30 minutes, whatever the program is.
Again, I learned so much from those little programs.
You cannot come out of them and not learn. No.
Where were we? It was about something we learned about bats. We learned
that's in Zion.
Oh my gosh.
Zion. So Zion had.
I don't care about bats, but I learned a lot, and I was like, oh man.
In Zion, it was a big part of it was all about bats. Yeah.
So it's little things you take away. So it's everywhere. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but the junior ranger program, it's free and it is great. And if it does nothing else, it gives your trip to a national park a focused. Mm-hmm. Because if you do a junior ranger program, you're gonna see pretty much everything the park has to offer.
Right.
Which is the next thing is, well, how much time do you need? We've done them as fast as like 30 minutes.
Right. Or smaller things, smaller little.
Or you can take as long as you want, but they're not very time consuming. They're not very time consuming, and I think that's deliberately done because they don't want to.
They don't want to spend that much time with you either.
Oh, they don't. Yeah, they don't want to take your whole time.
Oh, that is us. Sorry.
You're fine.
That's his sister.
I'm sorry.
I'm just shocked she didn't she just showed him. They both have, iWatches, and she's like, "Oh, look, I can send." She's gonna do it. She's like, "I can walkie-talkie you." And so
yes,
we have been out where we do not need to have the walkie-talkie come on, and she's just like, "What are you doing?"
And her voice will come over my phone. I just took it off that way she can't do it. And her voice will come over my watch.
Oh my gosh.
You can take it if you want. No worries.
No. We're good.
Just text her real quick. No, it is hysterical. Like, it's funny to me because I'm like, oh, great. But people look at you like, ooh, what is that? But so back to the parks. Every park's a little different. You weren't here for it with the solar eclipse that came over the U.S. Mm-hmm. What was that? 2019?
It was August 2017.
17.
Yeah, I think it was 2017 that we planned ahead. We planned like a year
We
ahead.
had planned, because we like all that kind of stuff. So we had planned years ahead of time. We bought all the little glasses, everything. So, of course, we had ours, and then everything was sold out, and we're like, oh, we're good.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so we planned everything. I was going to take a road trip to South Carolina because it really wasn't far. It was like 2 hours. And then, of course, the weather was garbage. So most of the East Coast did not get to see a full solar eclipse. And then I was like, I'm not going to be in the car stuck on I-95 because 95 was shut down both ways because so many people would try to go see it. So we have a national park here in Savannah. What's not really a national park, but it's a national monument.
Which one? Fort Pulaski?
Fort Pulaski.
It's a park, national park. Yeah.
Well, it's listed as a monument on their website.
Which is a great Civil War fort, Fort Pulaski.
And their wording is always weird, whether it's a park or a monument, because it says monument on the website, but it is huge. It is not little by any means, and it's a huge fort, Civil War fort. And the kids and I went out there because they had a whole event for the solar eclipse, and then they gave a badge just for the a fancy badge just for the solar. I was like, this is the best thing ever. But then you learn a lot just from that because the booklet was completely different. It went over everything about a solar eclipse. I was like, man, the amount of information you learn. Mm-hmm. So all of our vacations over the years, even when we go to other countries.
Yeah, well,
it's the same thing.
If there's anything about how we travel and educate is, we're very hands-on. You have practical exercises, hands-on. You got it.
We want to know about, I want to know about all kinds of culture, but I also think that's because, I'm married to a Hispanic man who, your family's, everything they do is completely different for the most part from my family. Mm-hmm. So just even that was, that kind of spurred everything from the get-go. So we want our kids to know, different cultures, how it works, how not to offend people from another culture just because, you're used to doing it one way.
Right. And we've had a few conversations here recently with our kids going back to now cultures and being offensive and all that. Especially how sensitive everything is nowadays, especially in the United States. And like we said, we travel around, not just the U.S., but around the world. And then I especially travel just about everywhere. And I don't think other countries are as sensitive as we are, but we've taken that advantage of this because it doesn't matter what my view is, political view or anything. It doesn't matter, left. It just doesn't matter. We've always told our kids. I'm like, hey, that doesn't matter who's in the other end, but that is a person, and we've heard before. You never know what a person's what they're going through, and that's absolutely true. How a person wants to, how they want to, what's the word I'm looking for? How they want, whatever their gender, whatever they want to call themselves, whatever. And I'm actually I lost word right now. I'm like, it does not matter. That is a person in the other end, and we're going to treat him as such. Mm-hmm. And I think where we live, I think it's real critical because living in Georgia, this is not making fun of Georgia, but Georgia can be very right wing, but we can be very left wing, and it's like there's no room in the middle. Like if you're in the middle, it's like you better make a choice. I'm like, whoa. I'm gonna treat everybody like a person, like who they are. How they are is not gonna change, not gonna affect me. If this person wants to be
X or Y,
which is probably an actual letter,
right.
But they want to be whatever they want to reveal themselves as. That's fine with me. It doesn't bother me. Being in the homeschool, I'm going to touch to homeschooling for a minute. Going back to homeschool, a lot of homeschoolers, if you know nothing else, you can say that a large majority are
Christian-based.
Christian-based. Mm-hmm. And of course, and they're going to carry their own ideas, and I'm fine with that. I might not always agree with everything that somebody believes. I'm talking about even the Christian community, what they believe in specifically. But at the end of the day, whoever this other person is, Christian, non-binary, whatever,
Muslim.
I'm going to treat him like that.
Right.
And they deserve to be treated that way, because I don't want to be treated.
Rule.
And I don't want to be treated any differently. And that's something that we've talked to them a lot in the last month and a half, a lot. Because I'll hear somebody, a friend of Connor, say something, and I'm like,
You're like,
no.
No.
And I won't call him out right there. I'm not going to do that. But we'll have that conversation very shortly after, when we're by ourselves. I'm like, no, we're not going to be throwing those words around, or we're not doing this, even if it's a joke. Right. We're not doing it. And it's not because, somebody's going to post on social media and there goes your reputation. It's not that. It just is not right.
Right. So it kind of has worked out that the way we are as people and the way we view other people and view other cultures, that has all, in people's life decisions. So every time we travel, so we really do kind of harp on that, though, because now we travel with the kids we love. We usually have the ability to go about half a year traveling. Sometimes just weekends we'll take, or we'll just, a lot of times, because we like to drive places, unless, we know we can't get there by driving. So we will stop and really interact with locals, just so our kids see exactly, how everybody's different. There's nobody is the same, and everybody's going to have something else.
Well, we've always said it. Every country in the world, their little tourist traps are identical.
Right.
You see one tourist trap, you've seen them all. It's like, I don't know if you go like on a cruise ship. Like, have you ever been on a cruise ship? Every port town is identical. The same T-shirt companies, the same jewelry companies, the same everything. We step away from that. I'm like, no, we need to go beyond the tourist trap. I want to see what
each country really is.
I want to see what real St. Martin is about, or I want to see I want to see that, and whether it's a wildly rich country or it's a wildly
really
poor country. I want to be in it, and not to rub my nose in it. Like, look how much better. It's not about that. It's just experience what those people are about. Like, let's join them. Let's.
Like St. Martin.
I said St. Martin. Hey,
we took the city bus with our kids. We're like, hey,
let's just get on the city bus and let's just travel. Let's just go. Who cares where we end up? Of course, yeah, we do have
an idea of where we would like to go.
Yeah, we're not going to just be like, don't care what happens and we're going to get robbed. Yeah, we're not that. We're not that cavalier. It's just, but I want to do what they do. It's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to don't change it for me because I'm a tourist. I just want to do what you do. What do you eat? I want to eat that.
We need to show the kids, stuff that's outside of, what our comfort is. And it's I don't know, it's a lot of fun. Those are some of our best memories.
They are. By far.
And the kids love it too, because they're like, okay, we rode the bus,
Like,
the other kids getting out of school that day, and our kids are just on the bus with other kids who get on public transportation and go home from school.
It's like, we don't speak the same language. I know, that's part of the adventure. It's real cool. Let's figure this one out together.
And you make it work.
Yeah.
Basic. I love that. I love that idea. Like, going to a place, really experiencing the place, knowing what the people are really like. I think it's so cool. And you're totally right about the tourist traps too. It's like I go all the way to Ensenada, Mexico, so that I can see the exact same stuff that's like on the corner in my own hometown, like selling T-shirts. They just changed the name,
Yeah.
It says Ensenada on it. I remember feeling that way. We went to a luau in Hawaii. Me and my wife, our honeymoon was in Kauai. Have you guys been to Hawaii?
I have not.
We tried 4 times.
The last time we
there.
planned it, we had it all planned, figured out. It was the volcano, right? The volcano went off.
Oh yeah. What
so
bad luck.
But we were actually going to that national park there, so it was like our whole trip was just
we have not been to Hawaii.
We've tried 4 different times to go, because we already have we have all the points saved up for our tickets, everything, and so we're like,
it is amazing.
Every single time. But for us though, we already know we're gonna spend like 10 days there just to hop, because if I'm going, I want to go to every island, to knock it out, so then I can come back to my favorite islands later.
Mm-hmm. No, we actually, speaking of national parks, we just got back. So we went probably 2 weeks ago for our anniversary, and we went to, have you guys heard of Haleakala?
No, I have not.
So it's a crater. It's a volcano that's on Maui, and
Okay.
it's so cool. And it's like you go up there, and you have to drive up the mountain for like a half hour, and it's all foggy and raining, and then all of a sudden you go through the clouds, and it's I think 10,000 feet elevation, and now it's clear sky. Like it was rainy and foggy, and you drive above the clouds, you can see everything. And so you can watch the sunset from above the clouds, and it looks like Mars, which is like a different world there. It's awesome. And I would definitely recommend going. I was talking about the luau. Yeah. So we went to this luau on our honeymoon, me and my wife. We were in Kauai, and we'd try. It's hard to have that mindset that you guys have. Like it's such a good mindset, but it's really easy to fall into the just like the tourist type mentality. And when we went to this luau, we realized like we had been eating real Hawaiian food, and we'd like gone around and met people and stuff like that, because we try to do that as well. Luau, it was kind of apparent that it was like it was a show. It was a tourist show, and like almost it felt like they unloaded the boat of us white people, just like unload these people into the and like do a song and dance, and then load them back up, and then like you can relax and act like you normally would act.
Right.
It's not like they're always acting that way. It's just kind of inauthentic. Well, not inauthentic, in more like it's not the deepest version of their actual culture a lot of the time.
It's not like we've never fallen for the tourist gig. It's
I still
not
like
that.
it though.
These countries do try to make it extremely efficient for us, and we do. I mean, the States do it. I mean, downtown Savannah makes it really efficient. Take the trolley, see what the Savannah has to offer, and then you're done in a matter of an hour.
Right.
They just make it real efficient for you to just as a tourist be like, oh, here we go. It's just the hardship. I enjoy the hardship of it, I guess.
I will definitely be taking a luau. I will be at a luau.
Yeah.
I will definitely be there.
And I totally recommend it too. The funny thing is that I like those tourist things because you do kind of get like the highlights as well.
Right.
But you have to have both. You have to feel like you understand kind of, at least from a surface level, what the people are really like there.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm a huge tourist. Like, take me to the big, waterfall.
Right.
Oh no, yes, that's all part of it.
No,
That's
not even.
yeah.
I will go to the Disney resort in Hawaii. Just drop me.
Oh, I'm huge. I'm a sucker for bright lights and big music. Like, I love Disney. Like, I'm in no way saying I'm such a purist that I'm like, oh, I look down on you people that are falling. Like, I eat that stuff up. But I'm just saying, it's nice to experience both.
Disney.
Oh no, we still do Disney because we're only 4 hours from Disney, so we go to Disney more often. We have passes to Universal, so no, we still do everything. You touristy.
You don't go there, it's the happiest place on earth, but you don't go there and have a bad time. They have that down to a science.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna have a good time whether it's your first time or your 1,000th. I think something is gonna be fun.
You can't not have fun. Like, try as hard as you can. You're gonna love it. Disneyland is amazing. Disney World too.
We've never been to Disneyland,
and we were actually planning to go
because we were going to be there we were going to go to Anaheim for the Star Wars celebration. Oh, and it got canceled
because of COVID.
And that trip we had
already booked everything for Disneyland.
Everything was booked, which we did get refunded, which is good. But we had the Star Wars celebration that figured out, and then we were going to do an Anaheim it's in Anaheim, right?
It was in Anaheim.
In Anaheim, go to Disneyland. Never been to it, and I have a ton of friends who are like, "Oh, why go to Disneyland? You've been to Disney World."
Because I haven't been to Disneyland.
Because Disney, I haven't been to Disneyland.
It's a national park, basically, right?
Exactly. We were just like, we gotta go. Like,
but yeah, and then
of course
COVID got its thing again, and we canceled that trip. We didn't even go. No, San Diego was different.
San Diego was the summer prior.
Yeah, summer prior.
Like a few
I love
months
San
prior.
Diego.
So that's the first time I ever went to it.
Now, we've been all over California at the
It was
time.
really cool. San Diego was really cool.
It's so nice. I lived there for 4 months. It is so nice. It's so cool. The huge
city's beautiful.
arena that they have, it's beautiful.
What
And
I
the
did,
zoo. The
what I
zoo was
didn't know about until right prior to arriving at San Diego, which you told me that. So I'm a huge L. Frank Baum, who wrote Wizard of Oz. I'm a huge fan of his books, his old books. I like buying all his old books. What I didn't know about, this is just an obscure fact, is that in Coronado,
it, right? Where does your daughter get it?
in Coronado, the chandeliers at the hotel were designed by L. Frank Baum, which are like, this is really cool. And that was an exciting story, and I guess we have time. So we go here and we want to see these chandeliers. They're supposed to be shaped like crowns, really cool.
We're the only people going to this beautiful hotel just to look at chandeliers.
And so, which is the same hotel that they filmed the movie Some Like It Hot, which
With
I love
Marilyn
that movie.
Monroe in it.
Great movie. If you haven't
I
seen it.
know what you're talking about. I've never seen it.
Fantastic movie.
It's actually a pretty good movie. I liked it.
So we're there and we can't see it. They have the doors closed, and we're like, we're gonna sneak in here. We have our kids. We're gonna sneak in here.
And we did.
And we found that one. We went to out the hotel through this side door, and we opened it, and it's completely empty. It looks like they're doing something. We're like, well, we're coming in. And I remember the kids giggling, and they were like, shh, quiet. And we snuck in there. We took our pictures, looked at the chandeliers, and we walked back out. And it was great.
Yeah,
it was
awesome.
great.
And there was not just that though. What else did we do there? That was just related to. Oh, we went on the beach right in front of the hotel because
That's what one of the scenes from Some Like It Hot
was filmed out there.
Yeah.
Now we
So
gotta watch that.
So I love old movies. And that just started 4 years ago. I don't think more than 4 years ago. I came across a list on the internet. Top 100 movies, American Film Institute's top 100 movies. And I was like, how many movies of these have I seen? Just out of curiosity. And it was like, I don't know, let's say 20, 17, maybe 20. I don't remember the number. And I was like, this is really bad. I was like, and I made it a point. I'm like, I'm going to see every movie by the end of the year. It took me like 2 years. But by the end of the year, I'm going to see every movie on this list. And the ones that I already saw, I'm going to just rewatch them.
That was him, not me. I did not have the time.
And I finished that list. And it was, I feel there's a lot of jokes or movies that you watch nowadays that you don't even realize. But I'm like, I saw that in wherever. What? That's crazy. That same line was in this movie. Or the song sometimes. You're like, that song. It's like, why is that song familiar? Because it was in this movie. So watching that, which is as far as like bucket list items, if you can watch the 100 movies on that list by the end of your life, you're going to be happy. There's so many movies that at the end I was like, that was great. And then I go back like Frank Capra's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is
Great movie.
That's a really good movie. People should be watching that.
Never seen it before. But after I was done, it was like,
oh,
wow.
He's doing
that was really good.
He's doing the speech and he can barely
stand. Yes.
The Boy Scouts and he's like he's fainting. Oh, that's
the filibuster scene. Yeah, it was
movie.
Great movie. Here's a movie that I never watched until that list. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, another great movie.
Never watched it until then. That movie is one of the few movies that I've ever watched, and at the end, I am just happy. Like really emotional, not like crying. I'm not much of a crier, but just pure and generally happy. You're like, it worked out. Oh. It worked out. And you're just happy. And there's other movies that, because of that list, that like my favorite all-time movie now is Rear Window. Alfred Hitchcock.
Love that movie.
Love that movie. It was like, I got to see all his movies now because of it. They're not all on the list, but I've seen all of Hitchcock's movie, even the ones that he did when he was still in the UK. Every movie he's done. Something about Rear Window, it's because to me it feels kind of childish the way it got filmed and all that. But I guess what I took out of it, well, there's two cool things. One, if you ever noticed, the camera never leaves the apartment. You're either looking into the apartment or off in the apartment. Really cool. Really cool. They made think about, sometimes how smart these directors are. They made a story with the camera position pretty much only changing either this way or it's going to look that way. And that's really cool. But you see all these movies now, and you're like, okay, that's cool, or it doesn't feel original. But when you watch Rear Window, like that's the original. So many movies have come out of that, and that's the original. And that's just exciting. You're like, you know what? That's where all these other cool things you see. And I'm not saying every movie, but I'm saying the movies that can fall within that genre. I'm like, it stems from that movie. Like this was it. This was the start.
No, that movie is awesome, and you're exactly right. Have you guys seen Disturbia? That's based off of
yes, Disturbia with that's with
Shia LaBeouf.
He went crazy. He went crazy here in Savannah.
Yeah, he did go crazy.
It
was so bad.
He was arrested. He went a little Looney Tunes, and then they put him in.
He went to jail.
They went to jail. Yeah.
That's your guys. Like that's the claim to fame. Like we're Savannah, the home of the crazy Shia LaBeouf.
So Savannah, kind of on movies in Georgia. So Georgia gives a huge tax credit to anybody in Hollywood, who does movies. So a lot of movies are now filmed either between Atlanta or Savannah. We have celebrities here all the time. Now it's just like
pretty cool.
Yeah, because now it's just annoying because they'll shut down streets and you're like, oh
God,
Lord. I got to get somewhere in the street.
What's become exciting is when you're driving around and you see these poster boards and they look handwritten. Right. And it'll have an arrow pointing in whatever direction. And it'll have like 3 letters or 4 letters, and you're like, oh, and it'll be like the title, like the Lady and the Tramp, or it'll be like, I don't know,
LT something.
LT, like, so it's finding out like, oh, what is this? And you look it up, you're like, what's being filmed in Savannah? LTP, Lady and the Tramp, and you start following the arrows, and it's like, oh, they're filming a movie there, and they're filming a movie there. It's real cool.
And Savannah is huge. So poor Shia LaBeouf, I do feel bad. He just lost his mind, but he just drank too much. But a lot of people come here. Justin Bieber comes here quite often. They actually got married right over the bridge from us. I didn't know that. It's a place that we've gone to for dinner or for lunch and and for dinner. It's called what is it? Palmetto Bluff. I was blanking. And it's a fancy neighborhood, but you can go in and go shop around. There's this little historic chapel, and that's where him and his wife got married. So I was like, what? Like, this is weird. But yeah, Savannah's pretty big on celebrities, so we do see a lot of. So now it's kind of fun to see modern movies because a lot of them you'll see different parts of the city.
We're looking at the back. Okay. We're constantly looking at the back. It's
like see the back of your head or something. Hey, that's me.
Yeah, it's like with the scenery. It's like, oh, where's the set? It's like, oh, that's this hotel. You're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Will Smith came and filmed one of his more recent films, probably in the last few years, and one day he was on his Instagram and he had put a netting around his face. He's like, I cannot live here. This is so bad. What are these things? It was sand gnats attacking.
And and if you never experienced sand gnats, it is
bring a net.
It is different.
And so he was just like, I've got to film this and get out of here. This is bad. But they also, his crew gave him a really beautiful place to stay. For us, it's pretty because it's on the marsh, so it's just beautiful scenery. But the bugs are bad. You do not go out at dusk, and you don't go out at dawn.
It wasn't too much. I never understood the marsh. To me, marsh is swamps, and they're like, "Oh, it's like marsh front view." You're like, "What? That's disgusting."
But it is.
Until you see it, and then you're like, "You know what? I get it. I understand it." But the bugs are bad.
We refuse to live. Well, we do kind of live near the water here right now in our house, but it's like I can't go any closer. Like, we physically can't go closer to the marsh because the bugs will pick us up and we'll float away.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been to a marsh. Like, I've seen them in movies, but I'm not totally sure what they're like.
Like swamps.
Do they stink?
It's like a swamp. Yes and no.
It could. It does have its moments. There's days here that it just smells in the air. And you're like...
Like kind of damp? Like just like a musty...
No, it's like sulfur-ish.
It's a sulfur, like rotten... Like,
rotten eggs?
Like rotten eggs.
Yeah, but the marsh...
It smells like mud to me. Smells.
Have you been to the Everglades ever in Florida?
No, I haven't.
So the marsh reminds me of the Everglades, but instead of being green, it's brown.
Yeah, it's brown.
So the Everglades is... So you have water, but then there's blades of grass... That shoot up all through. So it looks like there's no water.
Oh, there's water.
But it's nothing but water. It's just grass shooting through the water. So it looks like that. Marsh looks like that, but it's brown instead of green.
And it's mud. So if you step in it, you are sinking and you're going to be stuck.
Yeah, so marsh, it looks cool in the sunset.
It looks really pretty. When the bugs are coming out is when it looks the best.
Yeah.
Which
is
is
the trade-off, right? Like you take the bugs for the view.
But it is pretty though.
Yeah, it is. Once you see it, it's different. Like I said before, I'm like, it's swamps. I don't want nothing to do with marsh. But it's pretty.
Have you guys been to what is it? Is it Yellowstone that has Old Faithful, like all the guys?
Yes, Yellowstone. So we went to Yellowstone. How many years ago was it? 3 years ago?
2018. So.
Oh, so not that long. Yeah, 3 years ago. Oh.
Well, not yet because it would have been this summer.
We went to Yellowstone on a road trip. That was a really cool road trip. A lot of stuff happened on that road trip. A lot of
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like this is really happening. We were pulling a
travel trailer.
A travel trailer behind us.
A pop-up, because we used to have a 26-foot travel trailer, and then we sold it. We bought a boat for a while, and then we're like, you know what? We really could benefit, because we just had Connor when we had our other travel trailer, and then we're like, oh man, we could really benefit. We have 3 kids now, so then we're like, okay, I would just happen to see one. I don't even know. We're going to my
pop-up.
Yeah, I just happened to see one when we were driving somewhere else, going out of state.
But you also wanted to be small enough to stick it
anywhere
where you can just pull in anywhere. And anyways,
so we had this cute pop-up, which was actually pretty fancy because it had 2 king beds that were heated, had AC, it had a bathroom, a shower, in a pop-up. So it was a fancier pop-up. But that trip though was just
not accidents.
Murphy's Law was happening every step of the way.
Yeah, Murphy was in charge there. But that road trip, and I'll get to Yellowstone. We started here in the house. We went all the way
St. Louis
to St. Louis. Through Kansas and all that. Then to Colorado, and then we head up north, and that's where we went to like the windiest place ever.
Went through Wyoming.
Wyoming was so windy, and then we ended up in Yellowstone.
Through the Grand Tetons, and then up through, which is very terrifying because it was June and it started snowing on us when we had colder weather. The snow was starting to melt in Colorado, and then we get up to Wyoming, and Wyoming had all of a sudden it's 40-mile-an-hour winds,
and we have pretty cool
sustained.
Video. I have a video of us in the car in the pickup. I have this bag that has everything you can imagine. I have a wind meter in it. I remember pulling the window down and having my wind meter, and it was registering. I forgot to be like 41, 42 or something like that.
Constant, but blowing against the car.
Was sustained. It was 42 mile per hour sustained winds. Yeah.
And there's tornadoes. Like every time we turn around, like something's coming on. We're like, what is up with Wyoming? Whatever. But it's
people are riding bikes.
And people are riding bikes.
Their bikes were sideways.
And we're just like, man, the amount of effort these people are I felt like such a just unathletic loser, and just watch these people on bikes as I sit in my car.
So we went to Yellowstone. The reason
so we get up there, so the Grand Tetons, it starts snowing. It's June.
We couldn't see it on the way up because
the snow.
It was so much snow and so much. You couldn't see the Grand Tetons, so we're like, well, this is a bust. So we just skipped it and went, down the road is Yellowstone. Right up the road is Yellowstone. So we go to Yellowstone, and this is where the story is fun for me for Yellowstone. I love saying the story, and I don't say it often. So we're at Yellowstone. We're going to see Old Faithful, and it's going to, the geyser's going to explode. And they have their formula of when they think the next one's going to go.
And it's down to a science.
So we show up to it, and we show up early. And have you seen Old Faithful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so they have seating and all that. At least when I went, they had seating.
I'm sure
those benches. So we're sitting down, we're getting ready, and in my head, I don't know why, but in my head, I'm expecting an explosion, like you can hear the grumbling in the ground, and then it, boof! I'm expecting something crazy and wild, and I'm gonna feel it in my body. And so here it's like, hundreds of people start showing up. It should be like it should explode now, and then now's the time. And it's like 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, and then you just start seeing a little bit of extra steam come out. You're like, here it is, and it just shoots up.
It was so quiet.
And I was like, and it was so cool. And I had it so built up in my head that it almost felt like it was a downer. It was like, what was this? But I'm seeing Old Faithful, but I was expecting an explosion. It was like, boom. But then afterwards, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, no, why?
Why would it be
an explosion? Why would it be an explosion? There should have, what? And I'm just thinking about why I had it worked up in my head this way.
Probably because commercials over the years I remember years ago, there was a Metamucil commercial. I don't know if you remember it, years ago. And they were like, oh, it's the fiber you take every day. It's like clockwork. Even they put it in Yellowstone. I remember this commercial as a kid. But in the kid, it makes an explosion sound.
Oh.
So I think a lot of people, if they watch that, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, are going to have I had a false belief of Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to a stupid commercial.
That road trip, we did something new too. You ever seen the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Great movie, yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite
love the
movies.
soundtrack, love the scenery.
The part when he's going down the mountain and he's on his longboard, the music, and the scenery.
Okay.
Oh, so
yes.
good.
Because of that scene, I wanted to longboard. I'm like, I am going to longboard.
He bought a longboard.
So I bought one. And for that road trip, and I'm like, we're going to the Rockies. There has to be some hills. So we're in Kansas. We want to. So in Kansas, the geographical center of the U.S. is in the northern border of Kansas, almost dead center Kansas in the northern border.
Right.
So we're like, let's go there. And we went there, really cool. And I remember getting excited on the way there. I'm like, oh, these are some pretty cool hills. These might be it. So we see the geographical center, exciting, snap, took a couple photos, selfie. Let's get this over with. I want to pull out the longboard.
And we did.
So we pull out the longboard, and I'm like, hey, just drive to the bottom of this hill. So we're at the geographical center. Now, it's not like it's like a hill that it's just, the grade on it's like 10% grade.
It's not Walter
that. It's
Mitty Hill.
Well, the grades maybe, but not the scenery. But
not the music.
So I no practice, no. I don't skateboard, nothing. I just told her drive to the bottom, and I'll be there in a minute. And I get on top, and it's like, let's do this. And I start rolling. There was no wrecks or anything. And I rolled, and I felt like in that movie. I was like, that wind coming through. I'm like, in my head, I got the song going. What a cool experience. And then we did another hill after that. And I remember I started experiencing, some of the things that could happen. If you have just the tiniest bit of wobble, it's just going to, over time, it's just going to, yeah. So I started getting a little bit of wobble towards the bottom. And then when I got to the bottom, I'm like, oop, nope. No, I am not going to go crashing down, 40 feet but that's where I longboarded. And it's because of that movie. And it was awesome.
That is
in my
so
head.
Awesome.
In my head, it's one of the few moments in life that the way you picture it, it happened. And you're like, that's a win.
That was cool. That. I had a moment like that. I love that movie. I love the part when he goes and he plays soccer with like the kids and
the kids.
How awesome is that?
Oh, I love that part. And I had a moment kind of like that. It was so for my birthday. I'm from Utah, right? And I've lived in Utah my whole life. And I'd never been to Arches, which is like, it's on our license plate, it's on T-shirts. Like everyone knows Delicate Arch. And that was almost like my claim to fame, like that. I was like, yeah, I'm the guy who has never been to Delicate Arch. Like, look at me. And my wife for my birthday kidnapped me, I guess, and secretly took me to Delicate Arch.
That's cool.
That's nice.
Oh man, it was so cool. And like, I didn't know, because I'd never driven out there. So I had no way of knowing that we were on the way there. And she intentionally was like, don't go on Google Maps. And, I guess she wasn't that good of a kidnapper, because I could have just, looked it up. But when we got there, it was kind of one of those moments where kind of the opposite of what you were saying with Old Faithful, where you're like, you expect this huge explosion and it turns out to just be like a little blowhole. I always thought it was small. I just see it on the license plate and I didn't really know how big the arches it was. I remember hiking up there and you like come around the corner and you can see it like through this hole before you even get there. And I'm like,
no way.
That's huge. And it was like a movie moment, I'm like sitting there like, oh, for all these years, I was always the guy who never saw the arches, and look at me now. And I was just sitting there and it's just massive and you just
so cool.
soak it in. It's beautiful.
One of the saddest things that I ever heard, well, not ever, but one of the saddest things in a national park that I heard was there when the one of the parkways, like every arch is eventually going to collapse.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, this is pretty cool.
And you're just like, oh gosh.
It's like, so one day this arch is not going to exist, or you'll have two pieces of rocks protruding, but no center.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
better glue it. Just
It'll
glue it back
probably
together.
be in like 1,000 years, but I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No,
Yeah, but it is sad when you think about it.
it's like,
I mean,
no, don't collapse. It's so cool.
it's like, I don't know if Utah has earthquakes or at least feels them.
Occasionally.
And so I'm just like, please, no earthquakes, no earthquakes. Because, I
Yeah,
mean,
dude.
that's really what would do it in.
Some of those arches are, like, again, same type of thing. You guys spent some time looking at the other ones, right? Like oh my goodness, they're huge. They're like a skyscraper. They're massive.
They are. And it's intimidating
I
sometimes.
like the ones, there's that really cool one, and a rainbow arch, maybe rainbow arch. Either way, that we got to walk to that tight little, between almost like between two large rocks. You have to walk, sneak in, and then it just opens up, and you're like in the middle. You can see the sky, but it feels like you have something overhead, and then there's the arch right there. You're like, that's really
It's
cool.
towards the beginning of
it's towards the beginning of the park.
arches. You kind of you go around, and then you see the fist looking one. I think to me it looks like a fist, and then you kind of go right behind that one, and then you pull over to really look at. It almost looks like just it's not a ball, but almost kind of like a worn down diamond, if you will, on just a perch, and it's in that area where you park and you go and hike through there. It's
a short hike, but it's really cool.
That's what you're talking about.
It's just
It's
an
right
arch
over there.
hidden. It's really cool.
I couldn't believe I'd never been there. I was like kicking myself. I live 2 hours away from this place, and I spent my entire life, and I'd never been. It's just breathtaking.
I mean, I grew up in Miami, and you hear, or maybe not so much anymore, but especially in the 80s and 90s, like Miami, and the pre-coke cowboy days. We're talking about like after all that got figured out, Miami was a pretty cool spot. So you hear all this about Miami, but I never really experienced Miami for what it was from a tourist point of view and all the museums and all that until I met you and we started going there. And I want to show you the things like, like the planetarium. Like, let's go to the planetarium. I don't remember ever going to the planetarium. It was really cool.
Versailles. Not Versailles. Oh, gosh.
Vizcaya. It's a really cool house, Vizcaya. It's like a... It's like a miniaturized... in one of the Bad Boy movies. It's
Bad
like
Boys 2.
It's like a miniaturized version of the Biltmore, but very miniaturized because the Biltmore is huge. So they're like experiencing like that stuff that I never would have done. I've heard about it my entire life, but you didn't go if you lived there because you did normal stuff.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Right. You never really experienced your own town. When I lived in Brazil, maybe you guys have heard of Iguaçu.
No, I have not.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, yes.
The waterfalls, yeah. So I lived maybe 10 minutes from there.
Oh, man.
When I lived in Brazil, and so it was like a big goal, like we're going to go to Iguaçu and we'll take pictures and enjoy it. It was crazy to me how many people I met there had never been. And it was like this thought of like, well, it's so close. Like I'll go next weekend. I'll go for this thing. And like people in their 40s and 50s never took the 10-minute ride over there to check it out. And it's huge. It's like, it's something crazy. Like I don't remember the numbers, but it's the biggest waterfall in the world. It's like, it's very long, like much longer than Niagara. Like it's like a mile long. And seeing it, I guess I'm that same person, like at Arches, like I'd lived so close and never gone.
It's because you heard about it. It's almost because you heard about it your entire life. It's like you've seen it.
Right, without seeing it.
Yeah, like
and it's not
impressive.
Yeah, to your friends, like you put a picture on Instagram and your friend's like, oh yeah, who cares? I go there.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
right down the
wow.
street.
We see it on every license plate.
I see that all day, every day.
Yeah.
That is true, though. I mean, it's like manatees in Florida. Most people who live in Florida, they don't, they've never really seen manatees in the wild unless you're a boater and you accidentally hit one. But other than that, you're just like, oh, whatever.
Manatees are pretty cool.
But manatees are, I mean, we went swimming with them about 5 years ago now.
It was really cool.
It was an anniversary thing. We're like, usually we try to travel somewhere out of the country for those, but we're like, oh no, let's just whatever. So we end up going to swim in the almost kind of like the Panhandle area of Florida with manatees. It was super cold.
River?
It was called Crystal River. Man, it was cold. Everything is 72 degrees, the water. So you have to put a wetsuit on and you swim with it.
Put a wetsuit on.
It was really fun, and you're not legally allowed to touch them with both hands because they're federally protected, but you can touch them with one hand. And that was, that's just
one hand, the back of it, I thought it was, or was it front?
You can touch. You just can't have both hands. And
anything that looks like you're grasping it is illegal.
Yeah. So, but that was fun. I've only seen them in zoos.
Yeah.
Or an aquarium.
That's pretty cool. Remember hearing them?
Oh, and hearing them eat. Yeah. I will never not hear that sound.
When you go underwater with them, and you're right next to them,
you're out in the wild too. So whatever else is in the water with you is.
But all you hear underwater is like the
crunch,
like a pull, like a. That's all you hear, and it's just them eating grass.
It's just eating grass.
I didn't even know they ate grass.
I didn't either. I don't know what I thought they ate, to be honest.
I'm not even sure I know what a manatee is.
It's a sea cow.
It is.
Is it the one? It's not the one with the weird.
No. So it is. Well, they're gray.
They're huge.
They call them sea cows, but they're very round, and they do have like a mermaid's tail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always like one of the things. Like mermaids always got confused for manatees, or manatees have always been confused for mermaids. So how the myth started or whatever.
Right.
They don't have anything. They don't have anything like defining. There's no like horn or funny flap. It's just like a big gray Volkswagen in the car with a mermaid's tail.
Yeah, and they're super cute though. They really are. But when you see them in the wild, they look beat up. Like their skin looks beat up because they are hit by motor. The rudders of boats. So.
Yeah, propellers. Yeah.
So it does suck.
Yeah, they have a lot of. They'll get scratched. They're real slow, so they'll get scratches. Not scratches.
Scars, literal.
Chunks out of their body taken out because they're so slow. And boaters
can't see them.
When they don't see them, their prop goes over them, and they kill them a lot of times. And they'll have. They got sliced down the middle.
But it is cool to see them,
sad.
especially in this area, because in the wintertime, the majority of them will corral. Into this little area in the city. They go up the river and they just kind of sleep. They don't really sleep, but they
just eat. It's eat and have babies.
And they barely even move because it's just so cold. But it's really neat. So even if you don't swim with them there, you can they have the walkways. You just walk right over and
just see them. Just look right down.
I have to make a note of that. I didn't know that. So in Florida, you can just kind of go and check them out, even in the city.
Yeah, well, it's called Crystal River.
Where we went. I would imagine there's other spots, but
there's plenty of other spots to see them.
Where we went, it's just a spot known where they congregate during mating season?
Right.
During mating season, they congregate there.
It's on the Gulf side.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. You can't miss them.
When we were swimming with the mom manatee, she had her baby. She had just had it, and he was swimming with her.
Yeah, very cool.
So
it's a little thing.
Cool. We say it's little, but it was.
Oh, it's
probably my size.
Yeah. Small Volkswagen.
Yeah, it was really cute.
It is.
So little things like that. Little fun things where, Disney World, I don't know if they still have it now, but Disney World for a long time at Typhoon Lagoon had it to where you could snorkel with sharks.
I didn't know that.
We did that.
Yeah, but Typhoon Lagoon's been closed for seems years.
No, they're closed in the winter because they don't have heated, like Universal, their water park stays open year round because it's heated. Disney's aren't. But Disney did. We went in the summer and we swam with.
Sure, I remember.
I don't know what kind of sharks they were. They did not seem to care about us.
Not great whites.
Wasn't Jaws.
We're going out to to Florida in a couple months to Disney World. So I'll have to shoot you a DM and get your guys' recommendations of where to go and stuff like that.
Oh, and it's the 50th anniversary for Disney this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
It's a huge.
There's
a big
lot to do in Disney. Oh man. There is a lot.
So was it on? Did we see it on Instagram? And you were like, save. It was a reel.
Oh, the meals.
So, if you
Snacks,
just go and
treats.
Just kind of Google, you can even just look up on people's blogs all the popular snacks to try in Disney World, all the parks. He saved it because we're like, when we go back, we're trying all of these snacks.
And yeah, we definitely. You'll have to send that to me because we're big. My wife is huge into the Disney snack scene. She's like knows every corner, every churro, and so
it was. Those were ones I had never even heard of.
I was like, oh, never heard of those.
It was pretty cool.
Which is cool because it
gives us something else, something new to do.
Something new. You can never go there and not be happy.
No, I completely agree, guys. I I feel like I could talk to you all day. We didn't even touch on your podcast or anything. We'll have to do this again.
Okay.
I super appreciate you guys coming on. I know you got the kids you got to get back to and everything. What can we do, or anyone that's listening to this, to support you? I know you guys are starting a podcast, which is very exciting.
We are, yeah.
We had 2 launch dates in case because we keep doing so much research. And once you learn, and then you're like, oh man, you just kind of want to dig and dig and dig. So we pushed, our launch date was supposed to be this current week past. And then we're like, you know what, let's bump it to the first week of March. So we're actually launching the middle of this week. We just figured it would be better, because when, you've been doing the show for a while, you kind of, as you go, you learn more and more. So we are going to launch this week. And you said we didn't touch on our podcast, but a lot of the stuff we talked about today is really essentially what we kind of want to share with everybody.
Or maybe just a few more details.
Yeah, but it's just, especially about traveling with your kids, because, I mean, there's so much you can do with your kids.
Because not like we haven't figured out, but we're having a great time, and I really want
other people to have a good time.
It's just a really fun time. It's a cool ride.
No, I'm for sure going to check it out. And me and my wife are always looking for podcasts like that. We love that kind of stuff. So let me know when it launches. I'll share it. I'm interested about it. I think you guys have got a really cool story. I love the way you talk and think about learning. We've got a 9-month-old, so I'm getting as much advice and input as I can. So, hopefully by my 3rd one, I'll have it figured out.
Well, even by in a few months, I mean, seriously, you have a fun baby time frame. The baby's always fun because you can still do plenty of stuff with a little one too.
Yeah, so it's super exciting. Where can people follow? Anyone that's listening, it's Motivated Parent? Is that right?
It's the Motivated Parent, and it's both on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, I'll put a link in that, and I'll do an intro that talks about your guys' podcast and where to find it and stuff like that. Thank you both for coming on. I feel like we just tapped the surface of all the stories you guys have to share. So we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yes.
And also, if you guys are visiting Arizona, let me know. We'd love to show you around, show you
That's
Sedona.
awesome.
My wife's got a lot of, inside tips. She's lived here her whole life. And I'm also inviting myself to Savannah. If we are there, you guys better show us.
By all means. By all means.
You probably will not like me after one full day, because I will drag you around the historic district, and you're going to be like, you got to leave us alone.
We've had so much fun having friends, and some that we really don't even know. They come over and we're like, we'll show you around. You are family. Oh, that'll be
if you can find me where Justin Bieber is, then we'll be happy.
Okay, yeah. No, that's awesome. No, I want to thank you. You've made it really easy.
Right.
I was nervous at the beginning, and it did feel like I was just talking to a friend, and that really put me at ease personally. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for hearing us.
Yeah.
And for hearing us. Yeah.
No, I loved it. And I'm serious. I would like to do it again sometime. I know you guys have got a crazy schedule, so no pressure there, but I'd love to hear more about all of your crazy travels and everything.
Yes. We kind of left all the
funny parts out.
A lot of the stuff that happens in road trips. That
happens.
Yeah.
But now seeing how the setup works, even in our kind of crazy traveling, this is super easy to set up.
Anywhere. So because we have a mobile setup. Because our intention was to hit the road, so we can do this anywhere.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm serious. I'll reach out to you and let me know when the podcast launches. I'll share it and see if I can get the launch a little bit more fire behind it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, you guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.